Hello everyone. In this video, we are looking at the chapter Modernism, Postmodernism, D.H. Lawrence, W.H. Auden, T.S. Eliot, and George Orwell of the fifth block of History of Britain 2 of Srinarayana Guru Open University. So, let's begin. Modernism and Postmodernism. Across the early decades of the 20th century, in the drawback of the First World War, the structure of English society underwent great transformations. The seeds of this change had been laid in the preceding eras. By the mid to late 19th century, there had been serious challenges to accepted dogma and popular beliefs. The hold of religion over the minds of common population had been challenged by the publication of The Origin of Species by Charles Darwin. In the following years, Karl Marx's unique social organization by class in his Das Kapital would provoke a rethinking of class privilege and wealth distribution in society. By the turn of 20th century, Sigmund Freud would argue that the human behavior and mental activity has a unconscious dimension in the work the interpretation of dreams. With this, religion, social structure, and self identity, which were the fundamental elements of the individual, became questionable. The literature of the era, as with other literatures in different time periods, bore the hallmarks of these changes. This was reflected in modern English literature as a contestation of the existing conventions and attitudes of literature, many of which were practiced by Victorian writers who came before them. Where the Victorians assumed a complacent attitude towards authority, the literature of the modern period was characterized by a spirit of rebellion. It seems to question everything that was once considered sacred or certain. The tenet of modernism was to deliberately break the tradition. Even before modernism gathered force as a movement in the sphere of English literature, several writers seemed to demonstrate some of its characteristics. These early traces of modernism could be found in the works of Friedrich Nietzsche, Henry Bergson, Fyodor Dostoevsky, Walt Whitman, and Henry James. However, it was in the year 1922, with the publication of these three seminal modernist works, that the movement became significant. These were T.S. Eliot's The Waste Land, James Joyce's Ulysses, and Virginia Woolf's Jacob's Room. These texts carried some of the quintessential features that would later be used to classify modernism. Each of modernism techniques in literature had close interlinkages to art and avant-garde movements of the age. For instance, just as painters who used Impressionism techniques forced on perspectives or viewpoints, modernist writers explore the individual's point of view and emotions. In fact, many modernist writers used a narrative style known as stream of consciousness. Herein, the individual's point of view is portrayed as an internal monologue or as a third person narrative of the character's internal state. Thus, there was a move away from objectivity towards subjectivity. Yet, modernist literature continued to present the elements of realism, offering frank, dark depictions of world. A few common features of modernism in English literature are as follows. First one, disruption of tradition. Second one, focus on subjectivity. Third one, moving away from objectivity. Fourth one, borrowing features from different literary genres. Fifth one, sense of fragmentation conveyed through form and themes. Sixth one, reflexivity and meta-narrativity. Seventh one, spirit of experimentation. These commonalities could be seen in the fiction, poetry, and drama of the time. More than one genres It was the modern novel that underwent great changes. Modernist novels no longer followed linearity, using perspectives and impressions to capture the fragmented condition of modern life. The endings were not conclusive, highlighting the complexity of modern experience. Themes such as plurality of reality and experience, loss of meaning and identity, the crumbling of religious faith and social values, and futility of life were dominant. The challenge of classifying postmodernism as a literary movement lies in its tendency to reject patterns and labels. This is why many critics try to explore the movement through its differences from modernism. After all, postmodernism refers to the condition or state after modernism. It takes forward several features of modernism, such as experimentation, parody, irony, fragmentation, and ambiguity. Yet, unlike modernism, which contained many different sub-movements, postmodernism do not demarcate boundaries. Both modernism and postmodernism rejected the idea that there could be universal meanings. While modernism stressed the role of subjective experience in shaping meaning, postmodernism considered meanings to be connected to form a structure. Throughout modernist literature, there is a lamentation for loss of faith and the fall of social order. Postmodernism, however, celebrates the liberation from such structures. It calls for plurality, discontinuity, and fragmentation. This is why postmodern literature often projects an incompleteness of form and content, whereas modernist texts pay attention to styling. Postmodernism also breaks down the distinction between high elite art and low popular art, borrowing themes and techniques from each other. Interestingly, postmodernism seeks to depict the meaningless and dehumanizing aspects of life. Individuals and their actions are shown losing their own characteristics to become stereotypical or powerless. The defining characteristics of postmodernism are as follows. First one, rejection of authority. Second one, fragmentation. Third one, randomness. Fourth one, postmodern playfulness. Fifth one, intertextual linkages. Sixth one, use of pastiches. Seventh one, metafiction. Eighth one, openness to multiple interpretations. D.H. Lawrence. As we survey the literature of modern age, D.H. Lawrence emerges as an influential name, having produced over 40 novels, short stories, poetry, plays, treatises, and essays in the years before the rise of modernism. He is one of the earliest to show modernist tendencies in his themes. He is most famous for the bold, frank treatment of human relationships and sex in his novels. The direct portrayal of the sexual act caused great controversy in the decorous and rigid Victorian society of Lawrence's time. His works were considered to be so immoral and shocking that it led to censorship and a highly publicized trial for obscenity. His novels, which include the likes of The Rainbow, Sons and Lovers, Woman in Love, and Lady Chatterley's Lover, revolve around the experience of individuals and their complex emotional dynamics. His writings presented love and sex as significant human experiences that were be explored and not hidden away as shameful or taboo. His uninhibited use of language coupled with a deeply emotional presentation proved to influence many writers who would later be associated with modernist movement. Lawrence also frequently took up the theme of naturalism and primitivism as an obsession to the mechanical modern life. The materialistic and industrialized nature of life in the modern age came to be criticized in many of his works. He called for a return to nature as a solution for the same. W. H. Auden. W. H. Auden's poetry has displayed an awareness on the modern experience representing in 1930s in England. His works carried the discontents as well as the guilt and frustration that was prevalent among the English upper and middle classes after World War I. In City Without Walls, Auden attacked the decay of English society. In order to fully capture the scope of his poetic explorations, Auden used a wide range of poetic styles and techniques. He employed parodies, songs, ballads, and operas among other formal methods and experimented with rhyme and stanza patterns. Auden's poetry is known for its unusual diction or choice of words. As a member of the Silent Poets, his imagery draws from the world of science and industry. Images ranging from ramshackle engine and unbuilt bridges to the private nocturnal terror and the eye of camera are plenty in his works. There is a focus towards urban and industrial images that tie into the modern experience. As with modern poets, Auden's language is dense and obscure, often being labeled as difficult to follow. In the spirit of modernist experimentation, he has coined new words and often reused archaic and unfamiliar words to suit his purpose. He has personified abstract nouns, providing readers with additional layers of meaning. T.S. Eliot. The name T.S. Eliot is synonymous with the concept of modernism. His writings have been representative of modern age in a way that few others have managed. In true modernist fashion, his poetry incorporates the conflicting characteristics of tradition and innovation to great effect. Though he has argued that order is of primary relevance in literature, his experimentations with order has produced some of the best poetry of modern era. Searching for a poetic language that could meet the challenges of his times, he continued to innovate in form and theme. Eliot's poetic language borrowed from common speech and classical literature, allowing both inappropriate everyday utterances and classical literary references to exist within his poetry. The publication of his The Waste Land, a modernist epic that captures the despair of modern civilization, signals the advent of modernism in English literature. Apart from this, he has also composed the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock, The Hollow Man, and the four quartets consisting of Burnt Norton, East Cocker, The Dry Salvages, and Little Kidding, all of which bear features of modernism in their forms and styles. George Orwell. As the modernist movement was beginning to give way to postmodernist tendencies in middle parts of 20th century, George Orwell was producing renowned fiction. Most famous of his dystopian allegories, Animal Farm and 1984, Orwell's reimagination of reality is a crucial forebear to postmodernism. He wrote in a terse journalistic style, foregoing long descriptive passages. Instead, the language of Orwell's fiction has always been direct and precise without the use of extended metaphors or imagery. Orwell's fiction reflects the fragmented modern mind, often highlighting the conflict between humanitarian impulses and the desire for conformity. Another aspect of Orwellian writing that is connected to modernism is his illustration of the psychology of individuals. Through his works, he unravels the way in which power is veiled over the majority, conditioning them to obedience instead of encouraging enlightenment. Orwell's coining of neologisms or newly created words have had a tremendous effect on the English language. The vocabulary of his novels used to describe imaginary situations or objects in his story have entered into everyday language. These include first one, newspeak, language that is designed to make independent thought impossible. Second one, doublethink, holding two conflicting beliefs at the same time. Third one, thought police, politically unorthodox views held by a person. George Orwell could be viewed as a writer whose works show the early tendencies of postmodernism, such as the rejection of singular truth and meta narratives, melding them with modernist themes. These are all about this chapter. I hope you understand this video and thank you for watching.